Paul, I have good news for you this week.
Oh boy.
Now, I have made a point of trying to not talk about my health too much because that gets really old. And also because, like, just that's tedious and sometimes embarrassing.
Hmm.
But I had a positive experience this past week, and I thought I would share that.
Ooh, good.
Okay, so, you know, over the past few weeks, the high blood pressure, kidney damage, blah, 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 all these horrible problems, and surgery, recovery time, all this pain, losing sleep, all these crazy medicines. I've been really uncomfortable. But then my doctor's been on me as like, oh, you have pernicious anemia. And anemia, for those who don't know, is when you don't have enough blood in your blood. Like...
Enough blood cells? The red blood cells?
Right. It's like when you put the cheap gas in your car and it just isn't getting the job done. When you put the watered down cheap gas in your car.
Oh no.
It's happy hour and all the drinks are watered down. And it's a complicated thing. Different causes for it. It's usually an iron deficiency. But then, oh, well, I'll eat more iron, but you can't just absorb iron unless you've got vitamin B12, and you can't absorb B12 unless you've got this other thing, and there's this whole chemistry thing. But anyway, my doctor's constantly like, oh, your anemia is bad, you need to, you know, take some vitamin, and I'm like, I'm taking the vitamins and I don't care. Like, I've got all these other problems that are making me hurt so bad. This anemia is just dumb. Like, who cares? It's not causing any problems. Finally, he calls me up a couple weeks ago and he's like, I want you to go in for an iron infusion. Like, oh, you're still on about this anemia. Fine. So I have to go into the hospital and it just takes an hour. You just go in and they stick a needle in your arm and they start putting iron directly into your veins. Now, when they're doing this, the first thing I thought of when I heard of this is the second X-Men movie. This actually happens. Mystique, they've got Magneto in a prison where Magneto controls all metals. And if he gets near any metal, he can just, like, make it float around the room with his mind and smash holes in walls. And he just, like, turn anything into a bullet. He's super powerful.
Mm.
So they put him in this giant plastic prison where there is absolutely no metal, and he's just like paper plates, plastic things. Even the guards have plastic batons, right? And
it's all clear plastic, so it looks cool and sci-fi.
Right, exactly. But then Mystique, who's, you know, like works for Magneto, finds one of the prison guards after hours, drugs him, and then injects him with a ton of iron. And then the next day the guard goes in and he's just guarding Magneto, you know, and all of a sudden Magneto realizes, you've got too much iron in your blood, and he pulls it out of him and it makes this metal sphere, which he's then able to use to smash open the walls and get himself out.
Yeah.
So I was picturing something like this, because obviously the second X-Men movie being a documentary, this is obviously exactly what you should expect, is that it's going to be a giant syringe filled with liquid metal.
Yeah, yeah. It'll look like that kind of metallic fluid that they have in those little play toys, the plastic clear play toys.
Right. And ideally, the person injecting it into me will be a hot blue chick. But no, none of that was true.
Wearing only makeup.
Right. But anyway, they start, and I really thought this was a waste of my time. Like, who cares? This anemia is not causing me pain. But I'm just doing what the doctor tells me. And I go in, and they stick the needle in my arm. And it takes about the whole dose takes half an hour. But after about 7 minutes, I am suddenly overcome with this overwhelming desire to stretch. Just like, ooh, it starts on my arm where it's going in, and then it's my whole body. And I just feel, I need to stretch. I need to get up and walk. I need to move around. Oh my goodness. I'm going to go home. I'm going to clean my office. I'm going to do a bunch of writing. This is amazing. I'm going to take out the garbage. And, you know, there's that thing I've been meaning to fix for months. I should get home and do that right away. As soon as they got the needle out of my arm, I was like pacing like crazy. Just absolutely surging with energy. I felt like they'd given me the super soldier serum.
Wow.
And what I realized is this is not some fantastical new drug. This is me finally returning to normals. To normal after months of lethargy. It had been going on for so long that I just accepted this sort of as normal. And I got this iron infusion and I was just suddenly, oh, it felt so amazing. I've never been one to get hooked on drugs, but I think I'm hooked on this iron, man. I'm going to talk to somebody, see if I can get hooked up with some intravenous iron, some black market iron.
Black iron.
Right. Look, just give me the ore directly into my veins.
Blood, man. It's good stuff. You got to try it sometime.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's the other thing. Going in, it was red colored. I don't know if that means it comes from blood or is blood. I didn't ask any questions, or maybe the stuff they were giving me was just really rusty. Just instead of a shiny bag of liquid metal, it's just all this rusty metal. It's like, oh, your health insurance.
That's what would
really
happen to iron pretty
stuff.
quick if you put it in water, right?
Right.
So
that
I
was
wouldn't
amazing.
be surprised if an, quote, iron infusion, unquote, is concentrated red blood cells of your blood type, but I don't know for sure.
I wondered that too. That would make sense. It felt fantastic, and I had a really good couple of days. And now I'm like, oh boy, I gotta figure out how to fix this anemia. This is amazing. I feel like I'm 10 years younger. I'm back down to my baseline now again, sort of moving slower again. But on Monday morning, I get another dose of iron.
They got you hooked up for the prescription, huh?
It's 5 weeks of it, and I'm going to enjoy
Wow.
every one of them. Oh, it's good stuff. So it made me really happy.
Yeah. Downside, got to be careful not to get near Magneto, but you know.
Right, exactly. You pull all the iron out of my blood. So, you've been playing Dyson Sphere program this week, and we've kind of talked all about that.
Yeah,
So
the only thing that I have to say about it is that I really wish there was more automation tools for the end game kind of stuff. Like they've got this template system now where you can just like copy a whole chunk of buildings and like paste it all over the place, and that's cool. But there's no way to automate creating the actual Dyson Sphere itself. You have to create each node click by click, and like there's no way to just be like fill up this whole sphere with Dyson Sphere stuff, and that's kind of a drag.
Oh, the game's still in early access, right?
That's true.
So maybe that's coming.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, they are working their way toward, like, from the start of the game toward the end of the game. So the very first things you can do, you can just like drag and drop stuff, and that's fine. You know, you can drag a whole line of buildings, and that works for, you know, most of the start of the game. And now they've got templates, which is like the end game, but they still don't have any tools for automating the Dyson Sphere. So yeah, maybe it's coming. Let's hope.
Because once you're capturing the output of a star, yeah, you've got a lot of potential energy to work with there. You ought to be able to just click on some crap and see it happen. You shouldn't have a lot of manual labor once you're harvesting that much energy.
Yeah, it would be nice if you could do the same thing with planets, or like just like put down collectors for all the resource nodes on this planet. I don't want to have to go around and like place them all manually, because that's basically all that's left is like placing resource collectors and building Dyson Sphere, and like everything else is automated in between.
Well, here's hoping. So I've been playing New World.
Oh yeah, still, it must be good.
Still, yeah, I am having a really good time with it. We've talked about the Goldshire in the past from World of Warcraft, have we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I played World of Warcraft, and it's kind of a meme of MMOs.
For those who don't know, the Goldshire is... It's a little town very near the newbie starting zone for human players. And this little town, for whatever reason, there's no... I guess it's real near to newbie zone and really near a town, a major city that you can fast travel into. And there aren't a lot of places that have both of those. Usually those two things are far apart. Newbie zones tend to be a very long, long way. Like if you go over to the Horde side and roll an orc, you've got a long hike to get to the major city. To get to Ogrimmar. Ogrimmar?
Yeah, Ogrimmar. Whatever.
Whatever. But just, it was this, the Goldshire was this perfect setup of elements that sort of made it meme town. And so any given time and this happens across servers, no matter what server you on, you go into Goldshire, anytime it's busy, and you'll find, elf girls that have stripped down to their down to their underwear, that are dancing like, you know, on the fence, bounced impossibly on this narrow fence, dancing. You'll find like high-level players, like level-capped players, dueling in town, and just like, it's just this maelstrom of particle effects as these, like 3 different duels happening in the same space at once. So you can't even tell who's fighting. And then, you know, you walk in and you're like level 4, you just left the newbie zone, and level 60 guys following you around, asking you for a duel over and over again for like no discernible reason whatsoever.
Sure. Or griefing you by running in front of you and killing all the mobs so you don't get any experience for them.
Right, right. The chat is absolutely bonkers. There's people role-playing, people just memeing, people trying to be offensive, people trying to troll other people and get them to upset. It is just a madhouse.
The costumes, all the cosmetics, if you have some cosmetics you want to show off, you go to Goldshire and put on all your crazy cosmetics and just like stand in the inn right where the Hearthstone is, so that when someone ports in to Goldshire, who's like, oh, I finally made it back from, you know, like next door town or whatever, back from the mines, and they Hearthstone back, and it's like crazy pumpkin heads and dragon wings and nonsense everywhere.
That's right. You know, I vividly remember coming into town, and there were a bunch of elf girls all in their bikinis or underwear, you know, whatever. You remove all your armor and whatever it is that is not at all medieval appropriate, but just like modern underwear underneath all their clothes, but also wearing Santa hats. And I'm like, I was here this Christmas and Santa hats were not being given away. Like, how old are these Santa hats? Like, this must be, you know, Christmases ago, you got these Santa hats and you bust them out every once in a while to wear them to Goldshire to, like, be ridiculous. Anyway,
amazing.
The craziness of Goldshire never really got copied in any other game. There was just never that perfect thing, but I thought it was happening in New World. There's a place called Fisherman's Bend. It's near a fast travel point. It's a quest. It's like, talk to this old fisherman quest that you come back to often. So there's high traffic of people doing the main story quests. They'll have to come to this town many times. And it's just a little shack in the middle of a pond with a dock around it, okay? And it happens to be one of the few 3-star fishing spots in the game. It's called a hidden fishing spot. But of course it's not hidden. Every player finds it. You have to. It's right there on the main quest. So when you get to, and it's, you know, like I said, near a fast travel point. So when you get there, the dock is just elbow to elbow with people fishing. Just
you'd think they'd instance the dock, right? So that when you go on the dock, you're the only one there. But no.
Right? And I went there one day, and it was just crazy how many people were stuffed on the dock, you know, catching 40 tons of fish out of this tiny, tiny pond, you know, every minute. You know, they're just pulling fish out. Like, how is there even water left in here? Just the residual of your hook going in the water and then coming back out you'd be wicking up all this water.
Now, there are places in South America where there's like ponds on the surface, but they're all connected underground, and there's like this huge network of underground caves and stuff. So maybe that's what's going on here?
Sure. I believe that. Oh, and there was, there were girls in their underpants standing in the water, fishing, and I was like, yes, Goldshire's back. And I was playing a female, so I stripped down to my underwear and I started fishing with all the other girls in their underwear. And I was like, this is so awesome. Goldshire, New World is going to be a successful MMO because they have a Goldshire. That's
what everyone else was missing.
And I mean, it was, oh, the other thing is, this is a PvP game, and it just, you know, everybody's having this nice, quiet fishing, and they're all set to not PvP. But then PvP players come through, and of course they're just murdering the shit out of each other. Just this continuous melee of death and killing sort of happening in the same space, but not at all affecting the quiet fishing.
Yeah.
You know, people murdering each other in the water directly in front of me.
It's something you never get in like EVE Online, where it's set per like spatial area instead of per player.
I was so delighted, and I came back to Fisherman's Bend several times this week, and I was sort of crushed to see the crowd slowly trail off. And now anytime I go, even during prime time, there's, you know, 6 or 7 people there fishing. There's nobody dancing, nobody dueling, nobody's naked, nobody's being crazy, nobody's memeing, and I was just sad. But I have hope. Maybe if the game, you know, maybe all that you need is some crazy costumes. Maybe like Halloween costumes will come out and people will be like, where do I show off my costume? Oh, I'll go to Fisherman's Bend. I'm just fingers crossed.
They can always patch the game and put some other reason to go there at Fisherman's Bend.
Right, but it is sort of this perfect thing. Oh, the other thing is there's some great resources. There's hemp around the area. There's bison. It's just a really good resource harvesting area too. So you've got the fishing, the resource harvesting, the fast travel point, and the quest dude. That's a lot of traffic for what is visually designed to be this quiet, remote, out-of-the-way hermit shack that is, you know, become this major traffic hub.
Right. Like I said earlier, by the way, are the resources instanced, or can you like mine the resources and then no one else can get them?
Right, you mine them and then you wait for them to respawn. This is actually a sticking point because some, like bison, you kill a bison, it respawns, you know, 15, 20 seconds later. Another bison. But if you harvest like an iron node, anything to do with mining, anything to do with a pickaxe, it takes forever and it's making people insane. And there's just this constant like, why is this so slow? You know, all of my crafting things are so high level. I've just got skinning and wood chopping and harvesting and herbalism are all through the roof, but then mining is lagging behind because it's just, there's not enough and everybody's trying to mine it. And growing pains of a new MMO. We'll see what they do with it. So the game has a lot of PvP, so I actually played some PvP this week. And that's not like me.
No, it's not. I'm kind of surprised.
Right? And I don't mind the PvP itself, but boy, I don't like PvP players.
The competition.
Well, it's not just, now people go, oh, they're so toxic. They're so and there are a small number of people who just, well, like, what's the most offensive thing I can say? What am I not allowed to say? Now, how can I express that idea in a way that will not be detected by the, you know, the
automated enforcement system.
Right. How can I, and they're not really trying to express this idea. They're just trying to piss people off and make people crazy.
Or they're trying to game the system where it's like, okay, well, they've made these rules and this boundary, and how can I get across this fence that they've set up?
Exactly. They're not saying it because they want to promote some ideology. They're saying it because you told them not to.
Yeah.
Okay, those people are annoying, and they exist, and they're a small minority of all people. I'm talking about all the other PvP players, just their general personality. The trash talking, just the idea. Okay, the population is divided into three you have to join one of three factions. You know, once you get to like level 8 or something, it's like, okay, there's the Covenant, the Marauders, and the Syndicate. But nobody ever calls them that. Everybody calls them yellow, green, and purple. And PvP players,
off to a strong start.
Right. PvP players like take it really like they trash talk. Oh, Covenant's so weak. They don't want to fight. Oh, Marauders are just a bunch of Zerg. They're just using their superior numbers. They're not actually good at the game. Like, I'm like, it's color coding. What? None of this means anything. Where's this allegiance to the random color you picked coming from? The trash talking, the chest thumping, just the bravado. It's just, even when they're not being toxic as in trying to make people miserable, it's just weird. You know, I just don't like hanging out with them. Nobody ever is having a cool conversation about cool stuff that I'm into. They're always talking about the game. They're always, like, I'm out there mining or fishing or doing whatever, and they're always like, oh, we need to defend the thing. Come on, you guys, you're being weak. Come on, we gotta defend our territory. And trying to entice you to join in the PvP by insinuating that you're weak or fragile or scared. And it's like, I'm just having a good time, dude. And I don't care. I don't care about our stupid fort.
Oh man. Okay. So they're jocks.
Exactly. Yes, they are jocks.
Anyone who is interested in playing PvP, or not anyone, but the majority of people interested in PvP are people who are like, want to be on the team with the guys and like do the thing and score the goal.
Our school, which I was arbitrarily assigned to based on geography, is the best. No way, man, my school that I was arbitrarily assigned to based on geography is the best. How dare you insinuate that your school is the best? Who cares?
My parents paid for my entrance to my school, so it's clear they're the best.
All right, well, your school probably is the best, but fuck you.
Right. Oh, man. I never was involved in sports at school or like any of that stuff, so it probably doesn't annoy me as much as it does people who are forced into that ecosystem. But yeah, I can see how that would be really off-putting.
Right. It's very weird. The one last note on the thing is that there are, of course, wars. And this is a very PvP-focused game. But you can't... Okay, what they found in MMOs of the past, when you have PvP, like, you know, oh, we gotta hold a fort or something. There's some arbitrary building that we need to hold. Well, the better team or the more popular... For one thing, you have the population problem where everybody wants to join the winner. So it's inherently unbalancing.
Yeah.
And then there's the additional problem of, you know, once one side starts winning, what would change the fortunes of the two sides? There's no mechanism to balance it out. So how people get around this is, all right, during prime time, the strong team takes the fort, and then at 4 a.m., 3 of us on the weak team will go in when nobody else is around and claim the fort, and nobody will contest it because nobody's playing the game. It's 4 a.m.
Yeah.
And that's not good, and it encourages people to like oh, if you want to play this game optimally, you need to be playing it all hours. Well, I can't do that, so I'm not going to bother trying. Like, it sort of pushes out your more mainstream customers and just caters to the hardest of the hardcore people that will play it all hours. You don't want that. You really don't want that in an MMO. You want broad appeal. So this game gets around it by scheduling wars ahead of time. There's also the PvE, the demons from the other world also attack, but they're scheduled ahead of time. And I love that the demons call ahead and let us know when they're going to be invasion scheduled for Tuesday at 9 p.m.
Does it actually say scheduled?
Yes. Yes.
It's not even like a forecast where it's like, oh, the weather looks like 80% chance of demons on Friday.
No, it's just it's, you know, scheduled or planned or is happening. It is a definitive thing. No attempt
Please
to integrate with
RSVP for the demon invasion.
Right, exactly. In fact, it even says, oh, this territory is being contested. Sign up for the war at the war table. Just sign up for the war. Sign up for the invasion. And I just love it. It's so deliciously ridiculous.
So, but this is played by people all over the world, right?
As far as I can tell, yeah.
So how do they decide when, like, at what o'clock the invasion is happening? Because, like, it's always going to be inconvenient for someone.
You pick a server. Before you pick a character, you say what server you want to play on. So US East, US West, Asia Pacific, you know, Europe, whatever. They've kind of got it into broad time zone chunks. So hopefully you will choose a server that runs on your time, you know, runs on whatever clock you're on. And you can change servers at any time. Like I have some West Coast characters and some East Coast characters just because I was dicking around. And like, oh, I'll play on the West Coast server. See what's going on over there.
So if you had a weird work schedule, you could always just go to a server where the events were scheduled in the time that you had off.
Exactly. So you would have lag, and it is pretty sensitive to lag. Like, I have a fantastic connection to US East and kind of laggy to US West. And which actually matters because the game has like dodge movements and timing but you can get around that by playing like a really heavy character that doesn't need to do a lot of or playing a healer. That's the way to do it. Then you don't need like sub-second precision. You just stand back and click on people and heal them when they're low. And that's real
nice. Forgiving
of lagging. Yeah. So I like it, but I don't think I'm going to stay with it for too long. I wish there was a non-PvP, like in World of Warcraft, there was PvP server and non-PvP. And the feeling, the culture was so different on the two kinds of servers. And then there was even further, there was the role-playing server, and those were my servers because, like, everybody was super chill. Nobody took it too seriously. Nobody was like, for the Horde, and like, hated Alliance. Like, nobody cared. It's just like, I just wanted to play as a cow, so I rolled Horde. I don't care about Horde versus Alliance. I don't want to kill other players.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting that role-playing would be less role-playing than PvE.
Right. They might role-play, hating Horde, but they don't take it real seriously in real life. They don't get angry at other players for not doing enough for the war effort.
Right.
Which really wears on me in PvP is just this constant, like, I'm trying to figure out what chat, you have to decide which chat window you want to follow. I'm like, which of these is the least annoying? Okay, they're having a stupid, no, your build sucks, no, your build sucks in faction chat. Well, in my company chat, they're having this ridiculous trying to dare each other to go to war and know you're weak and know you're a coward and know you're being stupid. Okay, that's no fun. Okay, local chat is a bunch of people just spamming chat with nonsense and memes. Oh, come on. Like, which one of these windows is relevant to me?
You can't just close chat?
You can switch to the help channel, which has no traffic.
That's crazy. There's no way to just hide the chat window?
No, I can't figure it. You can't customize anything in the interface, as far as I can tell. Like, World of Warcraft, you can, like, remake the interface if you want. There's, you know, oh, I'll put this down here, and I'll put the health bar up here, and just rearrange everything. And, yeah, you can't...
Well, they had a whole scripting language, right? So you could write your own UI, even.
Right, none of that applies to New World. You get the chat. You can find a chat window with no traffic in it. And then that corner of the screen will be empty. But it is kind of weird.
Amazon will decide for you what you want to see.
Right. This game, one final note. I know I've been just bending your ear about this game forever. One final note is, you know, Amazon has had a couple of disastrous launches. This game is absolutely solid. I've played, hang on, how much of this have I played? 140 hours? Okay, there's a bug in Steam.
Week?
No, I've had this game for 3 weeks. But that's clearly a bug.
Even so.
In Steam. Yeah, I'll report that bug to Gabe, that it is incorrectly reporting my time played as 140 hours, which can't possibly be true. I would never be that irresponsible. I played 140 hours.
Well, it is your job, so yeah.
Right. I've played 140 hours of this game, and I have... You know what? I leave it running in the background, and it boots you out to the main menu, but as far as Steam is concerned, you're still playing. So I probably have not played. Okay, so there probably 10 or 20 of those hours are not real hours. Anyway, I've played, however, over 100 hours of this game, and no crashes, no weird disconnects, no reels. I mean, once a day I'll have some slight bug, like, today I ran into a mining node where I, like, tried to mine it, and, your character gets into a position to use their pickaxe on it. And I found this weird out-of-the-way mining node, and I hit, okay, mine from it. My character backs up so they can mine it, but then they're too far away, so they don't. And, like, I couldn't get into a spot, but that's it. One mining node is inaccessible. Like, that's today's big bug, is this one out-of-the-way mining node I couldn't actually use. Very harmless. Really, really, really good for a newly launched MMO.
Yeah.
So, like, that's it. No other bugs, no other weirdness. Other people were complaining about performance problems and like, frame drops and stuff. I didn't have any of that. The game runs very smooth for me. So, yeah. New World. Having a good time with it.
So it sounds like it's a very solid, technically, gameplay-wise. Is there any story stuff, or is that just kind of lightweight?
Okay, here's the thing. I was ignoring the story at first, and I was like, oh no, we just run onto a new continent. And then Jennifer Snow in the comments began telling me, the story of this world sounds really interesting. The story of this world is they sort of embrace the MMO conceit that nobody can die. Like, that's why people are coming to this new world, even though all the ships get shipwrecked on the coast, is because once you're here, you can't die, or you just respawn.
Huh.
And
In-world.
I was like, yeah, in-world. And I was like, that's a cool idea. And then The Lost. I figured this was... I did not read anybody's quest text. I am that guy. I just click through. Yeah. Welcome, adventure. Would you... Oh, okay, good. Thank you for your... Okay, bye. And you have no idea what he just said to you. You just skipped a minute and a half of dialogue, right?
Uh-huh.
And, just take off, just chase the map markers. But apparently we've been coming here for centuries. Like, I figured, oh, it must be the 1600s, but no, we apparently landed here in the 1600s and centuries have gone by, and it still would look like conquistadors or whatever, but apparently we've been coming here for a long time, and that's what the lost are, is people who have been hanging around so long and died so many times that they're just going insane. I think that if they starve, if you just starve to death for a year, you'll lose your mind and become like these weird zombie people.
Huh.
So
if all the ships crash, how do the people back in the old world know that you live forever?
Yeah, it may explain that, but I don't know. I've been skipping the text.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. It's an interesting idea. It kind of makes me want to read the text, but then I'll stop and like, okay, I'll read this one. And it's like, oh, we need some food. Go kill 10 boars. And I'm like, what? I stopped to read the quest text and it's kill 10 boars. Come on. So I'm reading the wrong quests. I need to figure out where the meat of this... Oh, the other problem is most of the lore you find on pieces of paper lying around the world. But in the fiction of the world, the monsters come back too. Like if you starve to death for a year and become a lost, and then, you know, a player kills you, well, you just resurrect in 10 minutes or whatever.
Ah.
So
it explains... pretty clever.
Right. So it explains why the monsters keep coming back. But all the lore items are like spread around on the ground and have a monster. So you kill the monster, then you click on this piece of paper, you read the first 3 sentences, and then the monster comes back and starts stabbing you in the butt while you're trying to read. And it's like, well, I guess I won't read that lore item.
There's no libraries around. I remember in World of Warcraft there were actual libraries with actual lore in them.
Right, it's the dumbest design. There are almost no lore items that aren't guarded by a monster. So who would ever read this? If you try and read one, you're just gonna get ganked by a monster.
You can't pick it up and take it back to town?
No, maybe you can access it. Maybe you can access it later. Maybe it gets added to a codex, but I've been through all the menus and I didn't see anything like that.
For a company that originally started by selling books, it seems like they do a better job.
This is Jeff Bezos trying to break free of selling books. He's like, all right, I want you guys to make a video game where anybody that tries to read anything gets stabbed.
Okay, sir. Stab them! All right. Well, stab. Okay, thank you. We'll get right on that.
So yeah, I spent way more of the show on New World than I meant to. I apologize to those who don't care about New World.
Can I get an apology too? Because like before the show started, you're like, we're not going to have anything to talk about this week.
No, you don't get an apology. Oh, somebody emailed me about getting a signed copy of Mass Effect. Here's the thing about that. I'm not going to do this as a mailbag question. It's not necessary to read it. That's cool. Yes, we're working on that. My wife is normally the one to handle all of that kind of stuff. Anytime I do merch, anytime I do shipping stuff out, she handles it. She's the organized one. And she's been super busy lately, which is why I'm not like on top of this stuff. If anybody else is interested in signed copies of Mass Effect, let me know. We'll order some books. We'll make it happen. My wife was working like major overtime for a while, but now she's back down to normal hours and we should be able to handle this. All right.
Cool.
I have been talking for a very long time. You've been very patient. Paul, I'll let you, just so people can remember what your voice sounds like, can you read this first email?
Sure. Dear Diecast, have you guys seen Shang-Chi? Or more specifically, did you guys go outside to the cinema to watch Shang-Chi? I admit that I'm miffed that Hollywood is rushing to pretend everything is back to the normal while the new Delta variant of the plague rages across the country just to keep theaters open for their prestige value compared to home streaming. Love, Mule. For myself, I have not been to a theater to see a movie for like, I think over 3 or 4 years now. So, no.
Wow. Last time I went to the theater was for Avengers Endgame. So that was like 2019, I think. No, I haven't seen Shang-Chi. And to be honest, I still feel kind of done with Marvel. It's not that they're bad, it's just I've had enough of that content. I'm fine with that now. Thank you. I'm good. No more candy for me. I don't care, I'm not curious. Black Widow went on to streaming a couple days ago. I watched it, and I kind of zoned out for a lot of it. I just wasn't having, like, 4 years ago, I would have been like, oh, write a Black Widow movie. Oh, that's awesome. And this came out, and I just didn't care. And I didn't care while I was watching it. And I just feel like that I've had too much of this kind of content. And I'm burned out.
Burned out on entertainment. Yikes.
Well, on this specific, like, flavor of entertainment. Like, Marvel kind of has that light, fluffy, insubstantial feel to it, which isn't bad. Like, I don't need, you know, every movie to be this challenging thing. It's okay for a movie to be light and airy and fun, but there's an upper limit on how much of that, you know, it's like eating cotton candy. You know, kind of like after you eat a bunch of cotton candy, you're like, wow, I'm good. I don't need any cotton candy for the next couple years.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I'm also kind of, in keeping with the question, kind of surprised that more media companies haven't embraced like home viewing as the default way of entertainment consumption, because
Right.
it's so pervasive. I don't know. I have a lot of computers at my house, so like that's how we consume all of our entertainment is through YouTube and streaming and, you know, stuff like that. We don't ever go out to see a movie at theaters. So I don't know who is going to see the movies at the theaters anymore. It's kind of weird.
Right. Right. I don't see myself go. It's just so expensive. My wife can't go. It's too loud. It actually hurts her ears when we go to the theater. She does not like it super loud. She has tinnitus. So the last movie she went to see was Blade Runner 2049, and she spent the entire movie with her hands slammed over her ears. Just so uncomfortable that I felt bad. So, yeah. She wants to listen at home with the volume on low and subtitles on. And you can't get that in a theater. And I want to watch in my comfortable gamer chair with my tea and without having to, you know, and being able to make myself a snack that doesn't cost $20.
Right. And pause it whenever you want and get a call or do some work or have it running in the background and like just tune in for the interesting parts or whatever.
Oh, there's that dude. I know he was in the oh wait. I've got another window here. Let me open up IMDb and I'll look him up. Oh, right. He's that dude from that other movie that I also liked. And here's his full film. Okay. Now that's not going to eat away at me for the rest of the movie, is trying to remember his name.
Right. Or like, oh, I think I saw that. Like, I remember seeing like that symbol earlier in the movie. What was that on? I'll just scrub back and find out. Or I'll just look it up on the wiki and like see what that thing means or whatever.
So yeah, home viewing is superior. It didn't used to be. Back when I had a CRT, I did not think of home viewing as superior. But with, you know, now I've got these giant flat screens, and when I'm sitting at my computer, it feels about as much of my vision as the movie screen does in the theater. The only exception is the bottom isn't obscured with people's heads of the people directly in front of me. So I can see the entire screen when I'm at home.
And it might even be like higher resolution now, like 2K monitors are, well, I don't know for sure, but what's the resolution of a projector in the movie theater?
Yeah, I don't remember. I've looked this up multiple times and I can never remember. But
it's higher than 1080p, right?
Right. I believe that is correct. I know my monitor goes above 1080p. But you usually have to pay extra if you want the higher def. And for me, 1080p is plenty for my old eyes.
Yeah, more than enough, really.
Yeah. So home viewing superior to the theater. There isn't that guy in front of you with a big head and an annoying laugh. You don't feel your shoes sticking to the floor and you worry, oh, why is the floor sticky? Oh my gosh, that is so gross.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just better. So, I don't know when I'm going to the theater again. I'm not in a hurry, that's for sure. And certainly not to see Shang-Chi. Like, there's nothing I want to see. There's nothing I care about. I don't care about Star Wars anymore. I don't care about Marvel anymore. I don't care about I never cared about DC. I don't know.
Blizzard has stopped making movies.
And, I mean, I'm grateful. See, they're not all bad lately. Yes, they've had many, many problems, and they've done many things to offend people, but they stopped making movies, and we have to give them credit for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, I'll read this next one. Dear Diecast, in Final Fantasy VIII, there are several ways to access the game's lore. Aside from the obvious dialogues, there is also Squall's PC in the Balamb Garden classroom. A number of lore entries can also be accessed through the in-game menu. Now, one of those lore entries talks about how the summons in the game have, you can summon monsters, have a detrimental effect on the user's memories. Later in the game, this detail pays off in the plot by the main characters finding out that they have forgotten some important stuff. I've seen it described, okay, laying aside this email for a second, I've seen somebody surmise the plot of this game as everyone has amnesia.
Well, if all the super powerful weapons cause amnesia and is a world full of violence, then,
That plot point, getting back to the email, that plot point has been criticized for coming out of nowhere, which made me wonder, do you think that all foreshadowing of important plot points needs to be done in mandatory dialogue and or cutscenes so players don't get blindsided? Veil Tim. So the setup for this was you had to click on a computer and read some text. And keep in mind, we're talking about a game you played on your television in 1998 or something. So
it was at the height of the gamer wars between the consoles and PCs. So if you saw a PC, you didn't want to get anywhere near that thing.
Right, and this game never came out on a PC. So this is a lore item that you would have to read on your television, which, this is old CRT technology. Nobody wanted to read text on those old machines. So what do you think, Paul?
The resolution is like 320 by 240, right?
I've heard people say it was vertical resolution of 400, and I've also heard 240, and I've never been able to write, oh no, it's it's interlaced, and I can't make sense of it. Like, yeah, but what was the default? Like, what was just, when I was sitting there watching Starsky and Hutch in 1976, what was the vertical resolution? Was it 400? Was it 240? I can never get a straight answer, or an answer that makes any sense. I hear conflicting things.
The horizontal was still like 320 pixels, right?
Well, it was analog. It didn't have discrete pixels. But yeah, I think 320 is about what you could usefully get out of it. It's like talking about what's the bit rate of a record player. Well, it doesn't have a bit rate, but 320 is our best guess, I guess.
I just pulled up, for reference, like a 320 by 240 image, just made one in the GIMP, and it's like smaller than, it's like half the size of the palm of my hand held at arm's length. Like, it's just minuscule.
Right. So the setup to a major plot twist was something you had to read on an optional computer. I think it depends on the game. Like, is this supposed to be, there's no hard and fast rule about where payoffs have to go or where setups have to go. But if somebody doesn't get the setup, they will not appreciate the payoff. So this is like you as the designer. How important is this to you? You don't stuff something on a text item in the game and then assume all players will read it. Are you okay with everybody missing this setup? Is this an important plot twist to your plot? Do you want people to be set up for this? Yeah, so it depends on what the writer is trying to do.
Yeah. If you really wanted this to stick, like, other people in the world who aren't using summons are going to know about this effect, and so they're going to be constantly badgering these player characters, like, oh yeah, you forget that because you're using summons all the time. Oh, here, you know, don't forget to bring your lunch money with you. Oh, you forgot your helmet. You know, don't forget it when you go out and do summons because it makes you forget things. And then, like, when they actually do forget something, like, oh yeah, I forgot that I forget things all the time. And it's like, oh, of course.
Right. So having it stuck, to be honest, I gave up on Final Fantasy VIII. I got to, like, the middle of the game, and I was like, this is too abstract and too weird. And moreover, I don't care. And I checked out. So...
it failed to capture your interest.
Right, so this specific plot point, I didn't even get to this one. But I didn't read that computer. I didn't remember this, so I would have gotten to the part of the game where everybody had amnesia, and that would have just been another thing that came out of nowhere and I didn't care about. So really that tells me that even if I hadn't given up when I did, I would have gotten another hour or two into the game and then given up. So I was
So it seems like the result, our conclusion here is that, yes, if you want your foreshadowing to stick, you should at least put some of it where no one's going to miss it. And then you can always put more of it, you know, in hidden out corners and things.
Sure. But, you know, especially an important thing that realigns your perception of the story you've been told so far. Yeah, I mean, if you want that stuff to land, you've got to make sure the player hears it. And not only that, you kind of need to put it where they can see it, not just where it's part of the dialogue, but where it's something that gets talked about. It's the difference in a movie where they do an insert. Like, you'll see somebody, okay, there's somebody walks into the room, picks up a gun, and puts it in their coat. Or there's somebody walks into a room, then we see a close-up of them picking up their gun and a close-up of it going into the coat. Those are the same information being conveyed, but the latter is drawing your attention to it. And you know, oh, this is important, I should remember it.
Or even maybe better, I don't know if better, but even more flagrant would be like, there's two characters in the room, one picks up the gun and puts it in the coat, there's a close-up, and then the other character says, you think you'll need that? And the other guy's like, well, you can never be too safe, or whatever, right? And like, and then it's like, oh, okay, in case you weren't looking at the screen at this moment, it's like, oh, need what, right? Like, oh, and then, you know, and maybe like checks it to make sure it's loaded or whatever, and then it's like, okay, now you know that, like, this is an important thing.
Right. And, you know, especially if that's the big ending is somebody pulls out that gun and shoots the bad guy, you needed to establish that that gun is there. You can't just like, oh yeah, you didn't know he had a gun, but yeah, that's how the bad guy was killed. That just feels...
It just pulls it out of hammer space right at the climax of the story.
Right, exactly. That doesn't work. So yeah, the attention you draw to it needs to be proportional to how important it is to the story, or people will miss it. And you can, well, they should pay attention, they should look for lore. You can like say what people should do, but your job as a game designer is to not go around tut-tutting at people and wagging your finger telling them how they should play your game. Your job is to make a game that people as they exist in our world will enjoy.
Yeah. We're going to talk about games and stories a little bit later if we get to all these questions, but it's also the job of a storyteller to tell a story in a way that is that works with the medium that they're telling the story in. You can't just be like, well, if you were reading this like a book, you would understand what's going on. It's like, well, but it's not a book, so you can't do that.
Well, speaking of writing, how about you read this next one?
Hi, guys! Seamus' most recent article on writing video game writing sparks... on writing in video game writing sparks an obvious question. What are a few of the games that you both regard as the most well-written titles out there? Furthermore, how many of these are relatively new versus being old classics? I'm not about to spark an old grognard argument here, mind you. All of my favorite game stories were classics for almost the entirety of the last decade, but there are a few in the last few years from the smaller studios and indies that have produced many tales that I found to be truly exceptional. J. Mobius. Thank you, J. Mobius.
And here's another one. Dear Diecast, last week you covered bad writing. What about good writing? What are your top 3 best written games? Not simply good, but the best by your own standards. Steve C. So those 2 are related enough, I thought we should handle them together. The problem here is I know you don't play a lot of story-based games, right?
Yeah, well, and on top of that, I kind of feel like storytelling is a narrative, like having a linear narrative is a trope that works best in linear media, and games being inherently non-linear, like it's not really something that I feel like games are really well cut out to do. So my answer is Dwarf Fortress, because it creates stories in a very game-like way and works with the medium of games to do that.
I tried to put together a list. I could not get it down to 3 because it's like, it's hard. But here are a few of my favorites. Planescape Torment. Everybody praises the writing in the game. It is really good. The game itself isn't super fun to play. The game itself is super linear. I played through Planescape Torment once, and that was enough for me. I mean, there are so many different conversations you can have. There are a lot. The game is very reactive. And you can, you know, have party members you hate or fall in love with, or, you know, the game is filled with text. This is pre-voice acting. So you start talking to somebody, they'll greet you in a vocal line. Oh, what can I do for you? But then everything else is in text, which I think is the optimal way of doing a role-playing game. And I wish that it hung around for a few more years. Like that little bit of voice to give you a personality, and then you can apply that personality to all the text you're reading. I think that's the best system ever. And it lasted for like 4 years. We went from all text to that to all voice acted. And the sweet spot was over so quickly. Anyway, Planescape Torment. I think is great writing, but the game itself I do not want to play again. Portal. Just both Portal games together. Fantastic. Like, really, that's the puzzles are nice, but you play through it for the jokes.
That is very good.
Strong Bad's cool game for awesome people, which maybe that's a cheat because, like, it's just Homestar Runner humor, but it's really good. It's really good. Secret of Monkey Island.
Like 6 or 7 of those? Like, how many SGBG, whatever they are, did they make?
Yeah, there were 6 episodes, I believe. And they were all pretty good. Some of them were a little better than others. But yeah, they were all fantastic. They were all just like a really, just like tons of Homestar style humor. You just mine the game for as many jokes as you could get out of it. It was a lot of fun. And what my favorite gag in the whole game was when Strong Bad got a cell phone. And it was, of course, it was some ancient, like, brick 90s cell phone.
Right.
And he could prank call people. So every time you got a new contact, you could prank call them. But at some point, and he'd give everybody a prank call. But then his own number was on there. And he would prank call his own answering machine. No explanation for what he thought he was doing or whatever. Like, he doesn't even comment, boy, it was dumb of me to know nothing. He just pranks himself just because you told him to.
It's like it just popped into his mind and he can't help himself.
Right. Borderlands 2, which I know some people didn't like because they just thought it was too jokey and silly. But I think it suits the material. I wouldn't want all games to be written like Borderlands 2. But if you have a game about using shotguns that shoot lightning to blow the faces off of psychopaths, then yeah, this is the appropriate tone that the writing needs to take. And none of the other Borderlands games took that tone. Borderlands 2 is the only one to get it right. And the Thief series, which I think is really good. There are a lot of other games that I could give credit to, like just having wonderful atmosphere. I mean, to a certain extent, you could give that, the credit for that to the writer. But those are the ones that actually have, you know, dialogue being delivered to you that I think were noteworthy. But really, the way more game companies should be trying to deliver story is the setting is the story. Just discovering a world, the Dark Souls approach. That's dynamite. More games need to do it.
So the Witcher games don't make it on there, or?
Oh my gosh, I'm an idiot. All right, Witcher 3, also on this list. Yeah, The Witcher 3. The Witcher 3. I notice now that no Bethesda and no BioWare. I'd never even contemplated either of them. They're not bad, but I would never call them the best writing. Especially BioWare, even in their golden age. Yeah, even in their golden age, they were just, okay, that was well written. That wasn't the best of the best. That was simply competently executed. Although I love the world building in Mass Effect 1. But anyway, yeah, the Dark Souls thing where, like, the setting is the story, I think that feeds into what you said earlier about linear narratives, how it's better to just make a world that you can discover how it works. You run around, read lore items. When people talk to you, they're not telling you the plot. The plot is whatever it is you're doing. And you decide what that is. The stuff you're learning is the setting. How did this world come to be? I think that's a great way to handle it in a non-linear medium like video games. And we definitely need that. And we don't just need more Dark Souls games. I mean, like, more games in general should take this approach that aren't just like Dark Souls wannabes.
We're looking at you, Wolfenstein, the New Colossus.
Oh my goodness. Oh, how much better would Wolfenstein be if it was just you were discovering the world instead of that story. Or Rage 2. Oh my goodness. If Rage 2 had just been this discover the world.
It's all about, like, vehicles and traveling around, and, like, come on. The writing practically writes itself.
Right. Oh, how good would that be if it explained, if you just learned about how this crazy world came to be, and it was all these little vignettes about, like, why are there these giant convoys of cars driving around the desert that shoot at anybody that gets near them. And the story is, you know, do you decide to assault this convoy? Are you a bad enough dude?
Yeah, yeah. Slice of life sociopathy.
Right. All right. One question left, so we should do it. Okay, so I was playing Elder Scrolls Online, ran into a quest where I get, you must gather your party before venturing forth. And it was all I could do to not throw my mouse into the wall. Apparently I have some unresolved issues with Baldur's Gate and Icewind Dale. Also, KOTOR had this same problem. So is there a type of game message, or a particular one, that drives you guys up the wall? Thanks, Melfina the Blue. Thank you, Melfina the Blue. So, Paul, what gets on your nerves?
I guess it would be like on those old LucasArts adventure games where you're trying to figure out, like, what inventory item you have to rub on what other inventory item to get it to do the thing so that you can get through the door. And the character is just like, that won't work. That won't work. And it's just like, well, come on. Like, you're in the world. You know what's going to work. Just help me out here.
Right, or have different responses. Oh, well, if I tied this medallion to the rope, then that would not do it. Wow, that would not do anything. So I won't do it. Like, just something. If the player were to, or if the character were to comment on how dumb all your ideas were, then that would give you a reward. That would make it fun to brute force it, which is what most people do.
Right.
Oh yeah, I could definitely get wax all over this, and then it would be covered with wax, and then I could wash the wax off, and then I would need to go get more wax. So let's skip all that.
Right.
You know, something like that. That would be great. For me, the most annoying messages are the ones that are my fault. When I'm playing StarCraft and I get spawn more overlords, or more supply depots required, or you must construct additional pylons, because when you get that, it's your fault. I had ample opportunity to plan ahead, and it's an obvious thing you always need to do. Build supply depots. And yet, somehow, you still manage to forget. And it's like, how do I forget this obvious foundational... It's like forgetting your gun in Doom. Like, if you got into the level, and you're like, okay, here's an imp, and then you go to pull out your shotgun, and it's like, you didn't bring your gun with you. And I'm like, how did I leave without my gun?
Right. You always feel like the game is appending "ya dummy" on the end of each of those. Because it's just like, ugh, how did I do this?
I did it to myself again, and you can't even shake your fist at the game. It's your own fault. And so those are the ones that really make me angry. Although, you must gather your party before venturing forth is an annoying one, because it's usually like when you run through a zone very quickly. Okay, it's the late game, I'm just turning in all these fetch quests, and one of your teammates gets stuck on some scenery halfway through the level. And you're like, this is not my fault, video game. Are you really telling me that Bastila, the Jedi Master, can't figure out how to walk down the street? That she got lost and stuck on a shin-high fence, and she's just standing there, absolutely baffled as to what she should do with her life from now on? No, this is obviously a glitch in your pathfinding AI. Do not make this part of my story that suddenly Bastila had a seizure and began drooling on herself in the middle of walking down the street.
Yeah. It's entirely... So the most annoying messages are messages that are entirely the game's fault, in which case it's like, why are you bothering me with this? Or entirely your fault, because it's like, oh, why did you remind me that I'm so dumb?
Right. Or why didn't you remind me that Bastila is so dumb? Like, well, fine. You must gather your party. Great. Teleport her to where I'm standing and let's get on with, like, there's no gameplay. I walk back, I wait for her to, like, get unstuck, and then I shepherd her down the street and we all leave together. Is that a necessary step for playing this video game?
Oh, every trip to town is an escort quest.
Right. Where you must guide this Jedi Master down a street so that they don't get caught on furniture. It's so dumb. It's so bad. The game should just detect, whoa, you're far away, and you didn't tell this person to stay. I didn't tell Bastila, hey, stand here and don't move until I get back. She just, like, wandered off on her own. Just teleport her to me and let's go through the friggin' loading screen. What are we... Why? Why are we not just going through it? What is this adding to the game? Remember that... You remember that part in Star Wars where they were about to leave in the Millennium Falcon, and then they were like, oh wait, we left Han way down in the trash compactor. He's still standing there for some reason. Let's walk all the way back and kill all those stormtroopers again. Oh, look, there he is. He got caught on the door of the trash compactor and couldn't get out. Okay, come on, Han. Come on.
Never tell me the odds.
Never tell me the odds. Never tell me how to pathfind down a hallway. Yeah, so that is... you must gather your party is completely pointless. Why is that even in the game? Like, was anybody going to complain that your party teleports together as you go through a loading screen? No. Nobody would go, oh, this completely ruined my immersion. I wanted the game to make me go back and get Bastila.
Right, well, because the fact that Bastila is stuck has already ruined your immersion, right? It's drawing attention to the failure of the game. Like the game drawing attention to its own failures. It's like, why would you do that? It's just like pave over it and like paint it and like make it so I can't see it. If you want to have the failure in there, fine. Just don't like draw attention to it.
Right. Draw attention. Okay, well, the pathfinding broke and it's your job to fix it, player.
Right. Yeah.
We've provided you this sample of source code, some debugging tools. Have at it. Copy of the A-star algorithm so you can figure out where we went wrong. Let us know what you find out.
Wasn't there a game like that where you could like reprogram the game while you were playing it?
Baba Is You?
Yeah, well that one comes to mind, but there was another one that was, I don't know, I'll have to look it up and find it.
Alright, well we got through the mailbag again. We ran long, but I blame it on you talking about Dyson Sphere program for too long, Paul. Shame on you.
Yeah, you think 140 hours is long. I think I've got over 400 hours in Dyson Sphere project.
Oh, 400. That's actually not bad.
But I do leave it running like overnight and stuff. So
right,
it's not actually
like if
playing that whole time.
But if we actually, as a human civilization, decided to build a Dyson Sphere, I'll bet we'd have to spend more than 400 hours of labor on that project.
Yeah, probably.
Speaking of major space projects, James Webb's telescope. Is anybody else excited about the James Webb telescope? Am I the only one?
Oh, I think that is going to be incredible once the pictures start coming back. I mean, it's already an incredible technical feat, but
I am so delighted. I can't wait.
Apparently they're planning on building a space telescope on the dark side of the moon.
What? No, but that'll get then it'll be too close to Talos 1.
Yeah, maybe they're interference from their Wi-Fi.
1. Yeah. That's where Talos 1 is on the far side of the moon. It's in the L2 Lagrange point of the Earth-Moon system, which I'm still confused. I had to look up. Wait, there's the L2 Lagrange point of the Earth-Sun system, and then there's one for the Earth-Moon system. And how do they relate to each other? Wait, what?
They're all part of the Stellar Transport Network.
Right, because the James Webb telescope is going to the L2 Lagrange for the Earth-Sun system, but Talos 1 is at L2 for Earth-Moon, I think. Well, somebody can shout at me in the comments if I've butchered that. Anyway, they technically should not run into each other, even ignoring the fact that one is fictional and one isn't. All right. Thank you, everyone who sent in questions. If you've got a question for the show, our email is diecast@ShamusYoung.com. Thanks so much for everybody for listening. Say goodbye, Paul.
Goodbye. Wait, you're Iron Man?
I am Iron Man, and that made me a super soldier.